Welcome back to The Lead. I'm Jake Tapper. We are live from the Republican National Convention in Cleveland. We just witnessed something I can't remember in all my years covering politics, though I suppose it happened when I was 7, an attempted revolt on the floor. Never Trump forces tried to defy the convention chair and force a state-by-state roll call vote on the rules. With me now, one of the men who led that effort, the former Virginia Attorney General Ken Cuccinelli. So, first of all, I know that you oppose...
You just said anti-Trump forces.
Did I say that?
You
some
just read it.
Okay, so I know many of them are anti-Trump forces.
Yeah, but we're not.
Explain to me why you object to being called anti-Trump.
Well, as you know, Jay...
You're voting for Trump.
I've said since the Ted Cruz got out of the nomination that I was going to vote for Donald Trump.
You're going to vote for the Republican nominee.
I'm going to vote for the Republican nominee. And then once Ted got out, that was going to be Donald Trump.
Right.
And now we have this situation where you've got unbinding people who are anti-Trump.
And you're not one of them.
I'm not one of them.
You're not one of the people.
Nor is the majority of most of those states that asked for the roll call vote.
Time out, just to explain.
And you guys just had a banner under Rudy Giuliani that said it's all anti-Trump forces.
I get that you object to that. I get you objected. I just want to explain to people, unbinding is the delegate saying you can vote your conscience.
You can vote for whoever you want.
You don't have to vote according to how your state voted.
That's what they wanted
unbinding.
to do.
Okay, they were part of the movement, but that's not you. What do you want? What are you looking for?
We wanted to see better grassroots rules. Look, we have an anti-establishment candidate. He's run that way for a year. So with all the delegates coming, so a unique opportunity to change the rules to sort of flatten out the power in the party. Instead of centralizing it, we wanted to decentralize it. That's not what they did here.
What does that mean?
That means not letting the chairman pick all of the committees. It means taking political power out of the hands of the chairman and spreading it around even among the members of the RNC. It also means incentivizing states to close their primaries to Republicans,
and this
which
is an important part.
Republicans are very supportive of.
And let's explain this a little bit. Let's unpack this a little bit for the folks at home. Donald Trump won. Well, first of all, he won, period.
Right.
But he also did really, really well in states where it was not just Republicans who were allowed to vote in the Republican primary. It was also independents and anyone else who might switch their registration that day.
On that day.
Right. So the theory from a lot of people who are supporters of Ted Cruz and other conservatives is Donald Trump won because he brought people into the process who aren't Republicans.
Well, look, this isn't a new desire on the grassroots part. This stuff didn't just show up in 2016. Again, it isn't about Donald Trump. This was an opportunity for the grassroots to finally spread power out in the party, unlike 2012. And instead, we had a redo of 2012. We had a chairman gaveling through people who legitimately obeyed the rules to get a roll call vote. This was disenfranchisement, dare I say?
There's disenfranchisement. Let me ask you, a lot of people out there, a lot of political observers suggesting that the reason that you and Utah Senator Mike Lee, two Ted Cruz supporters, although I know you're voting for Donald Trump, I'm not sure what Mike Lee is doing, by the way, but that this is an opportunity for you to create a closed...
Look, let me stop you right there. There are people in our coalition. We had a Trump delegate in our rules coalition. We have Kasich delegates. We have Cruz delegates, and we have people who never committed to any candidate. This is not a former Cruz effort. We have people on our team that were not on the Cruz team.
You're way ahead of me. Let me just explain. The idea is to close the primary process from independents, from Democrats, from other people who aren't Republicans, so that a conservative such as Ted Cruz can win in 2020, 2024. You're saying this is not part of that?
No, this is about decades of growing establishment power in the rules and having an opportunity, or so we hoped, to have all of these, more than we'd ever had, anti-establishment delegates in this hall.
Yeah.
And I venture to say that if more of the Trump delegates knew the whole story, they'd be voting with us. But you don't have the opportunity to deliver that message, and I understand that from the Trump campaign standpoint. What I do not understand is the RNC violating its own rules right here and decimating its own grassroots 4 years after that demoralized large swaths of the Republican base.
So
it was just it was a very bad idea.
Rudy Giuliani, who was just here, America's mayor, a big supporter of Donald Trump, he said, after we played some of Mike Lee talking, he said this is why Donald Trump won. These kind of inside the Beltway, obscure rules debates, instead of talking about how to protect the country from terrorism, how to get better trade deals, how to bring more jobs to the United States.
What we're talking about here, getting grassroots conservative rules, is not inconsistent with, look at what happened in the platform. You had more conservatives on the platform committee, and the Trump folks basically got all the things they wanted on trade and immigration, which I don't have any qualms about. That's fine. And you didn't see us resisting that. You saw a lot of conservatives assisting in that effort. So why did they suddenly turn on us here in rules, along with Reince Priebus and the RNC? And it was to decimate the grassroots and make sure that the grassroots, God forbid, can't get power away from the establishment.
Well, the Republican National Committee response might sound something like this. Having a roll call vote on the rules would allow individuals to offer amendments. It would not.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's a straight up or down vote.
Straight up or down vote.
Straight up or down vote.
On the rules.
On the rules.
And you were going to vote no on the rules.
I was going to vote no on the rules because of the centralization of power within the party and the completely ignoring and abusing the grassroots.
And you think that your side would have lost, though?
Look, let's face it. Whenever you're going up against the presumptive nominee, when they've teamed up with the party, your odds are long, but you don't win any fight, you don't get in. And they didn't even let us take a try.
My point
we didn't even get to vote, Jake.
My point is, by saying no, that you weren't trying to add amendments, you're kind of acknowledging that your side wasn't going to win. Because if your side won, then you would have been able to offer amendments.
Oh, well, if we had won, the rules would have had to gone back to the Rules Committee, and then there would have been the opportunity for a compromise.
And then people, not you, but others, saying unbind the delegates.
There was never going to be in that Rules Committee an unbinding compromise. That was not on the table.
I understand it would never pass, but there would be a vote. And the point is, from the RNC's
but there was a vote Thursday.
The perspective of but we weren't covering it. There weren't millions of TV cameras around it at the time. And my point is that the Trump forces say this is just an attempt to embarrass us, to make it seem like there's disarray and there isn't support for Donald Trump.
We actually had an agreement with the Trump RNC team, and they were a Trump RNC team in negotiating over the rules with the grassroots conservatives, not the unbinding people. They weren't part of the discussion, okay?
Yeah.
And we came to an agreement, and then RNC backed out of it. And they backed out of it, interestingly, over this bonus for incentivizing states to have closed primaries, which Reince Priebus is on the record in concept supporting. So
Right.
he pulled out on something he supports. And then on the Trump side, we were trying to fix the things he said were rigged, and he's right. The selection committees in Florida, New York, Indiana, we put in amendments to get rid of them. They whipped against us.
Well,
how does that make sense?
If nothing else, you brought some excitement to my hour of television, 4 to 5 every day on CNN. So I appreciate
when things get boring, you can always draw cartoons.
Every time you want to do this, do it between 4 and 5.
This is the last thing I wanted to see here.
Yeah.
This is really unfortunate.
You honestly thought that they were going to allow a roll call vote?
Why wouldn't they? The easiest thing. Look, we had this in the Virginia
Because it would have
convention.
sent the rules back to the committee and people, and who knows?
They were so sure they were going to win.
But I'm saying that if your side had won, then
the Rules Committee reconvenes and everybody else keeps doing their business. It's in the rules.
I'm guessing that their argument is if we had done a roll call vote instead of a voice vote, if we had done a roll call vote, then that would have demonstrated disunity at the Republican National Convention.
And so trampling the people who obey the rules doesn't? Look, it's important. Another important piece of this, Jake, is to know that even after the RNC pulled an agreement that existed, an omnibus agreement, they love those, right? We came back to the table and kept negotiating to try and achieve a peaceful solution to this. Again, the unbinding people were not at the table. It wasn't that we were advocating unbinding or advocating binding. That was not part of our discussion. We were advocating fixing primaries, getting rid of the rigged parts of the system, which do exist.
Yeah.
And those were all shot down, and those olive branches were spurned.
Last question.
Yeah.
Somewhere in a Trump Tower or somewhere else, Mr. Trump is watching this. He's seeing Mike Lee and Ken Cuccinelli leading this effort to create disarray at his convention. That's his perspective. I understand that's not yours. And he's thinking, those are Cruz supporters. What do you want to say to him? Should Ted Cruz still be given a speaking opportunity at the convention?
Well, we have nothing to do with Ted Cruz.
He had nothing to do with this.
Absolutely nothing. Jeff Rowe is probably having a heart attack somewhere. because people like you would ask that very question.
I'm trying to get you to clarify it.
It's a legitimate question. I'm just saying he wasn't consulted. We didn't talk to him. He didn't know what was happening today. They haven't been involved in any of this. And I would point out the only reason that Senator Lee and I were at microphones, we had asked them to recognize a lady in Washington State. You heard the chairman at the beginning say, you got to turn these in writing beforehand and to be acknowledged and so forth. All of that was done as they requested. And there was a regular grassroots delegate who was ready to make that motion. And it only takes one when the petitions are filed as per the rules.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't recognize her. When Womack was looking over there, and I'm in the middle in Virginia, and Washington's way off in the left corner. So I'm looking at Womack, and he's looking over that way, and I thought, okay, he's gonna recognize her. He's going to recognize her. This is great. And
Womack was the guy on the stage.
Congressman Womack was in the John Boehner position of 2012, and he didn't. He was, they dragged West Virginia in to do some other motion that was out of order.
Very interesting, Ken Cuccinelli. We appreciate it. And Mr. Trump, if you're watching at home, Ken said that Ted Cruz had nothing to do with that, so don't hold it against him.
And your guys should have been better negotiators. You should have been here on Thursday. I'm sure it would have gone better.
That's from Ken, not from me. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. That's it for the lead. Thanks to the generosity of Mr. Blitzer and Mr. Cooper, who allowed us to go a little bit over. I throw it to them right now.